Okay, we're gonna edit that out.
Yeah.
So,
You could have done a little better.
Yep.
Be better next time.
Yep.
You know,
Fair
I
enough.
like the this is so.
All right, welcome to the Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowl Fantasy Football Keeper Podcast. I am joined with Phil Pandolfo,
Yeah.
owner.
Kristen making lots of noise.
Kristen Pandolfo.
Hold on, everybody listen to her crack this one. Crack it. Natter days are full of boys. No, okay.
And I, of course, am Steve.
not just an owner.
Well, we're going to get to that
Defender
for sure.
champ.
I am also Steve Pandolfo, owner and commissioner of the Bo Jackson Fantasy Football League.
Lots of action going on.
Bro, this will be way better finally. What's going on, guys? It's just the weirdo.
All right, so the point of today's podcast is to go over everybody's team and dissect everyone's keeper potential. And obviously, this is going to be the opinion of Phil and I as we break everyone down. And before we do that, let's take a look at the new keeper guidelines. Those will be up on the screen right now. Again, as we recalibrated the keepers based on our PPR league, which was highly requested.
By Scott.
Yeah, by Scott mostly. Tier 4 went from 0 to 150, and that took Tier 3 from 150.1 to 250, and that took Tier 2 to 250.1 to 350, and then Tier 1 is 350.1 and above. And again, remember, Tier 4 is you can keep any two players that qualify at Tier 4 as your 16th and 15th pick. You can keep a Tier 3 player as your 16th pick. A Tier 2 player becomes your first round pick. And a Tier 1 player is your first round pick, and you also lose a second round pick after that. So obviously, the lower the pick, if you have value there, the better. So we are going to start in order of the draft picks, which are in another video, which I will put on the link in the description if you need to see that. But our first pick overall in the 2019 Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowl Fantasy Football Draft will be Phil Pandolfo. See his roster on the screen right now.
And you'll see why I have the first pick.
Yeah,
by looking at it.
no Tier 1 players, only one Tier 2 player. You'll see Matthew Stafford. You'll see a plethora of Tier 3 players. Amari Cooper, notable. Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. Unfortunate about Isaiah Crowell, tore his ACL earlier this year. Will be not playing in 2019. And then obviously you have a number of Tier 4 players too. So, Phil, looking at this roster, obviously, you know, the idea is that you want to keep two Tier 4 players. But that being said, I don't see a lot of value in Tier 4 here. The two names that stick out are Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, normally I would love to keep two Tier 4 players because that's usually I try to finish top half, but it didn't happen last year, so it's easy to understand why I don't have two decent Tier 4s. That being said, I have two first-round picks.
That's true. So
I'm not as worried about the two keepers.
So that's another thing we have to play into here. So obviously with the number 1 overall pick, you're looking at Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott.
Or Elliott, I'd
yeah.
love to get him. He's an up-and-comer.
So obviously a top tier running back is probably who we're looking at that pick.
Absolutely.
So that being said, you've got Aaron Jones here, who is obviously the number 1 running back in Green Bay.
Which is always dicey.
Absolutely. We don't know if he's going to be. Now, the tagline here is that the Packers want to use the running back more in the passing game.
Which I've heard every year.
Every year. We don't know if Mike McCarthy is going to be that guy or not. He has not been that guy historically. But Aaron Jones, obviously, 12 games last year, averaged 14 points per game. It's nice for an RB2 because you have the number 1 overall pick. You're not going to need an RB1. But
I feel like a lot of those games, that average is skewed by some very big games.
I completely agree
mixed
with
in
you.
with some really horrible games.
I completely agree with you. And if you break it down here, you also, you look here, week 10, you've got a 32, and then 27 after that, 18. Finished the year
strong.
really strong,
Super
but super slow
But
start.
a lot of 5s and 4s in there somewhere when
Absolutely.
you really need to start out strong.
I think if it's me and my team, obviously the Florida State product out of the 2017 draft, Dalvin Cook, you looked at 11 games last year, 13 points per game. Kid's got a whole lot of upside.
when he's on the field.
The Vikings. See that knee?
And he reached for it right away.
Yeah. That and it's, you know, that's where you hold your collective breath. And
As far as the status of Dalvin Cook, he does have a torn ACL, and we'll move forward for there.
Really does, and that's probably the concern. You looked at 4 games in 2017. You looked at 11 games in 2018. I mean, he's averaging a second-round pick right now, like high second-round pick, or high second-round pick early in the second round. So makes
Makes sense to keep.
It does.
But I kept him last year, and he got hurt, so he cannot be my keeper.
That's right.
This year. So
You're right.
unfortunately, the only other person that I could potentially keep in this draft is. I would like to drop a bomb here just on the video to let everybody know that with the first pick of this draft, I'm going to declare right here, barring any injuries, I will be taking New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley, who
Wow.
has a very, as you heard our current champion say, he has a very close endearment to my heart and my wife's because he ran her all the way to the championship last year.
Yeah.
So barring any setback, or, let me just put this out here for you, Melvin Gordon getting paid. Melvin, I want you to get paid.
Yeah.
Please get paid.
Please get paid.
Say will be the #1 overall pick for Snapes on a Plane.
Well, I don't think that's a bad #1 overall
Yeah.
pick at all. I mean, he's a workhorse back.
Feel safe. I mean, he did it with that horrible team last year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I feel like he could do it again.
And I think with the departure of Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, I think they're going to rely on him more and more. It's not to say that, I think Saquon is a back that doesn't have matchup.
He's matchup proof.
Correct. He's
Yeah.
matchup proof.
Yeah.
You can put 11 in the box. I think he's still going to
still gonna
find
get it
ways
somewhere.
to get his yards.
Yep.
So, any thought on Sam Darnold while we close out your team here?
I think Sam Darnold is going to have actually a really good year. I just
Le'Veon Bell's there now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I think the Jets are an upswing team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Todd Haley's got that team like playoff bound.
I'm just very one quarterback on my team. You know that. It's been my downfall in years, but I'm very one quarterback, fill my roster with running backs and wide receivers for depth. And if Sam Darnold ends up burning me, I'll be super happy for him and for whoever ends up with him as their backup.
Sure.
But with the first pick and the 11th pick, I have some plans for some top tier, maybe running back quarterback.
That's
So
fair.
I'm
Yep.
just I'm going to put my eggs in that basket.
All right. Moving on, after the #1 pick, we'll go to our #2 pick, which is myself, Steve Pandolfo. I don't remember my team name, to be honest. Oh, no, it was Snooki. It was the Merkwalk.
Oh, yeah. No,
the
not
Merkwalk
Snooki.
Meatballs.
Diener.
Yeah.
Diener.
The Merkwalk Meatballs with the #2 pick. And as we take a look at the roster here, we see Christian McCaffrey, Russell Wilson had nice years in the #1 tier. Michael Thomas had a fantastic year. Obviously, James Conner, you see that there, who had a phenomenal year, obviously for a free agent.
Fantastic.
But probably not someone you want to spend the #2 overall pick on. Obviously, going to be a nice year, but not probably in that position. So that takes us to the 3 and 4s. 2 names jump out at you in the tier 4.
Very burpy.
Sony Michel and Will Fuller Jr. Will Fuller the 5th.
We like to call him 4 or 5.
Fuller 5. So, just not a lot of variety here to take. Nothing really jumps out at you. I mean, Robbie Anderson with a 3, which is a 16th round pick. We talked about Sam Darnold with your team. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's enough value. 164 points last year. I don't see him getting much more than that this year. I just don't know if that's the pick you really want to spend your keeper on. That being said, before we get into your thoughts here, Sony Michel, I'd like to point out, ESPN has Sony Michel at a 218 fantasy football point projection this year. And Fantasy Football Today has him at 139. Last year he scored 147. Obviously solidified himself as the bell cow back of the New England Patriots, but Rex Burkhead, James White, it's just a plethora of running backs in New England.
Yeah. If you were gonna put everything on a New England running back who's not named Corey Dillon,
Right?
I don't really think I would feel that comfortable. But I do think that you're very, and I think that's low, the projection. I think something jumps out clearly off of that tier 4 keeper for you, and that is Will Fuller V.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at per game production when he was with Deshaun Watson, and I am somebody who thinks Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback at the end of this season, and if you look at per game that he played with Deshaun Watson, I don't think he didn't score a touchdown in most of the games he played. Over half, I bet.
Yeah, so let's look. We've got his 2018 game log stats here.
Which wasn't a lot, and the only knock to Fuller 5 is that it's the same as Dalvin Cook. He doesn't finish a season.
No, and actually looking at the stats right here, you're absolutely right. He played 8 games last season, 4 touchdowns in the 8 games, an average of 15 fantasy football points in those 8 games that he played. 25, 21, 14, ended his last game with 23.
Which he got hurt in.
Which is the game he got hurt in. So we're looking at 3 games, over 100 yards, touchdowns in those games. You're right. That production just shoots out at you.
A talented quarterback. He plays alongside maybe the best receiver in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, which will always draw the double team. And dude has wheels. He can run the inside routes. He can run the deep route. He is a touchdown threat on every possession.
Yeah.
And for what you're keeping him at, with giving up nothing, I can't think of a safer keeper in this league other than somebody that's coming up sooner.
So really the question becomes, if I'm to keep Will Fuller 5, is Sony Michel the guy I pair him with, or do I have to look outside
No, I think
outside of this roster to maybe trade another draft pick to see if I can get someone
Fuller
better?
5 can be your wide receiver 2 easily to start the season, and Sony Michel is a great depth running back to have on your bench just to see. I mean, say it does work out and he gets Belichick's complete trust and becomes the bell cow back in that offense, then